Hey everybody, this is Chris, MTGO's Rex Start, and we're back with this week's episode of Show and Tell, the series that goes over the metagame for the Legacy Tribal Wars format as it's played out in the Tribal Apocalypse Player Run event every Saturday. And this past week's event was a singleton event, a special rules event, and the history of singleton has been dominated, strangely enough, with aggressive decks and vampires, and not when you think of deck building principles and having to use singleton, what you would necessarily assume to be seeing a lot of. We're going to take a look at those two decks in particular because they were once again on the top of the standings this week, and we are going to start with Mia Hitler's second place vampire list. And Mia Hitler, mostly known for playing assassins and for playing small, weenie, aggressive tribes loaded with tons and tons of creature kill, is his standard deck building method. And we'll see that this deck is really no exception. And in fact, he imports a lot of his cards that he uses in his assassins deck over here. The trouble with singleton basically is that you have to have a certain amount of redundancy because you can't obviously play any more than one copy of a card. So if you have multiple effects multiple different cards that provide a similar effect at a similar cost, then you can sort of replicate what it would be like to be playing with a normal 60 card constructed deck. So that's what you kind of look for in black. Mono black here obviously has a lot of creature kill, and I've pulled down onto this spot here everything that provides an immediate creature kill. And he's got a couple at 1 mana. He's got Chainer's Edict, Marsh Casualties, Go for the Throat, and Grasp of Darkness, as well as Ultimate Price, Shriek Maw, which is probably going to be used as a terror here for the most part. Gatekeeper of Malakir, of course, one of the most popular vampires along with Vampire Nighthawk. Gatekeeper provides a really good tempo swing there, basically by acting as a slightly overcosted edict effect that leaves a 2/2 body there. Always shows up, even off tribe, usually in Mia Hitler's decks that include black. Murder's Redcap, off tribe here, but again, when Mia Hitler is playing black or red, you often see Murder's Redcap in here because he has the potential to be much more than just a 2-for-1, depending on how things play out, and a lot of people don't like to attack into him or block him for worry of various shenanigans. Skin Render, of course, very nice. He's got one board sweeper in here of Damnation, and then a second one with Black Sun Zenith further up the curve, depending on when you're going to use it. Contagion and Corrupt, which is always a nice finisher in a deck with a bunch of swamps in it, and can in a pinch be used to pick off a troublesome creature. The Guldraz Assassin, one of Mia Hitler's favorites. Viscera Seer doesn't have a lot going on here, although you can sacrifice a creature in response, of course, to some spot removal and try to filter away some lands or something with the Scry. But he does have Bloodghast and, Calastria Highborn, so there's always some possibility of getting some extra value out of that, but again, in the singleton build, it's a little hard to sort of maximize that. But he's got it in here really just to be low on the curve. And I hate to keep picking on Vampire Lacerator. It seems like this, I really seem to hate this card, but I don't. It just, it has to be built in the right way, and I wonder about having one 2-power 1-drop is, as opposed to if you can build a deck with like 8 to 10 of those, then that's a deck. But having one of them, I guess the hands that you happen to draw it, you can try to get aggressive, but it's not the kind of card that really wants to just sort of be happened into. It's the kind of thing that you want to build redundancy into and have a lot of aggressive creatures if you're going to be playing it. So I wonder if there might have been some other vampire maybe higher up the curve that would have just been better to have in here. But anyways, be that as may, he certainly does have enough removal that if he lands one, he could try to clear the way and just beat in with it. Vampire Hexmage, of course, good in the fight here. Nice out to Planeswalkers as well. There's not a lot in here. Mia Hitler's decks typically are just absolute murder on creatures, but lack much way to interact with anything other than creatures, and so Vampire Hexmage gives him a little way to do that in kind of a corner case. Dark Imposter is one that I kind of like. It's repeatable removal, but it does take an awful lot of mana, but if you get it later in the game, and you do expect, normally you would think that these singleton matches would kind of have a tendency to go long and be a little random sometimes, so he could certainly be good there. Captivating Vampire as a Vampire Lord here, as well as Vampire Nocturnus. Miri the Cursed, who is 3 hasted flying power, not too bad there. Falconwrath Noble and Blood Artist, giving him some bleeder abilities there. Bloodline Keeper can totally take over a game if it's not removed quickly. And of course, 2 of my favorites, Drana and Malakir Bloodwitch, that I just talked about last week, are in here. Anawan the Ruin Sage, sort of an abyss for opposing non-vampires. Very good selection in Vampire Tribal. And he's got a Skeletal Vampire up here at the top of the curve. Brings in 5 power, 5 flying power when it comes into the battlefield, and gives him the ability to start increasing that with the bats, and use the bats to regenerate him as well. So excellent choice there up at the top. And he's got a Volrath's Stronghold in here to try to recover any of these creatures that he needs to reuse, especially good with the ones that have these enter the battlefield kill abilities. So, again, a very typically creature hostile deck from Mia Hitlor, and we're going to take a look now at the first place list, which was, strangely enough, I would have thought this had, Mia Hitlor's deck had a good game against this, but the winner, they both finished undefeated, and Arcbound Daylabor took it down in the final game with this Goblin Singleton list. And that gives me a chance to sort of talk about the fact that aggro has done probably overperformed in the Singleton events, because aggro is a deck that thrives on consistency, and Singleton events are anything but consistency. But what has happened is that tribes that have a certain amount of redundancy have been able to just sort of skate by around this. He's got 10 1-drops here in Goblins, and some of these are pretty subpar, really, like Goblin Cadets in a format where there's going to be, you know, a bunch of opposing creatures out on the field a lot of the time. Goblin Patrol you wouldn't normally expect to see. But again, the principle here is that he's just loading him up. He's got enough powerful 1-drops here that it's just good enough to get by, basically. And of course, red damage spells, he's got about 9 1-mana damage spells here. He's got what looks like 5 in the 2 damage range, and he's got a few up here at the top end, and just the redundancy is able to make it sort of function like a normal Goblin aggro deck, just sort of a slightly subpar or suboptimal one compared to its you know, regular Legacy brethren. So let's take a look at some of his choices here. Goblin Grenade, absolutely solid. He's also got Reckless Abandon, sort of a mini Goblin Grenade, if you will. And he does have some things that he probably wouldn't mind sacrificing off, such as the Mog War Marshal, a Sting Scourger that's already done its job by entering the battlefield. He also has up here Lash Out, kind of an interesting one. You clash, you're probably not likely to win with this curve, but it does let you bottom something, maybe a land if you want to do that. So it's sort of that filtering effect. One of the things that makes it good. Senna's Cinder, which you don't see an awful lot, because really the only good use for it is to play it on turn 2, and you still have a lot of red cards in your hand, and at that point the level of creature that they might have out in the field isn't usually going to necessitate the amount of damage this does, but you might have an opposing creature like a wall or something like that that could shut you down that you need to take out. Incinerate, obviously, Sudden Shock, uncounterable. Searing Spear, sort of the slightly overcosted Lightning Bolt from M13. Arc Lightning, one I always love to see. Rift Bolt, not bad. Stagger Shock, nearly always a 2-for-1 against other weenie decks anyways. Definitely like that. Blister 6 Shaman, not quite a murderous red cap or or any of that, but really not a Flame Tongue Kavu, but it can go to the face, so I guess it does have that going for it. Boggart Ram Gang, love that guy. Haste and Wither, both very good. Goblin Chieftain and Goblin War Chief are his only Goblin Lords here. He didn't use any of the other power pumping Lords. He does have Tuk Tuk the Explorer as a little bit of protection against board wipes. Gutter Snipe is a new one from Return to Ravnica that can really load up on damage. I think the plan here, rather than resiliency, is just to try to do the best to beat the opponent down real quick and sort of let resiliency go by the wayside, because he doesn't have a lot here other than, say, the Hellion Crucible and again the Tuk Tuk to try to recover from that. He does have a Haunted Fengraf, so he can try to get something back that way later in the game. So he's not totally without some kind of resiliency here, but it's a lot less than you would normally expect to see in Goblins. He's just really going all out and aggressive with this list. So I would think, looking at this, that that Mia Hitler's deck would have had a good. I don't have a video from the final. Maybe Mia Hitler sent something in. I'm not sure, but I know that Mia Hitler's deck probably should have had a good matchup against these guys. But again, in Singleton, there's just so much variance, and it seems to be that it's sort of a battle between the aggro decks trying to stack up on redundancy and sort of try to pretend like their regular sly aggro decks here, versus decks with just more powerful overall creatures like the Vampire Tribe. And those have certainly been two of the most successful tribes in the Singleton event, and again rearing their head here. And those are the two. I would definitely be prepared in any Singleton event to deal with vampires, and I would certainly be looking at cats, goblins, elves, a few of the other low curve tribes like that as well to show up. Anyways, I didn't get any videos turned in this week, so that's going to be it for the video content this week. And next week we've got a regular event. I'm hoping to play in the event, so I should at least have some video from myself and hopefully from anybody else. Remember, send in videos if you want to get your decks featured on the video each week. So thank you very much, and I will see you next week.